To understand bias, we can categorize it as both conscious, which is done intentionally, and unconscious, which is done unintentionally. Unconscious bias is harder to recognize as our brain makes incredibly quick judgments without us realizing, often as a result of where we've grown up, who we've grown up with, and what ideas we've been exposed to. Being on the receiving end of bias is harmful and definitely impacts access to opportunities, performance, and development. There are 5 key biases to be aware of, beginning with the halo effect, where we might think highly of a team member in one situation and this transfers to thinking highly of them in other areas, even if this is unwarranted. For example, a team member excelled on a project 6 months ago, so you assume they are still contributing just as effectively, even if they aren't. Next is the horn effect, the opposite of the halo effect. This is our tendency to think that just because someone dropped the ball once, they will always underperform and are incapable of improving. For example, a team member underperforms on a project, so you decide to not give them any similar tasks as you expect them to underperform again. Third, we have confirmation bias. This is when we make a decision about something and look for information that confirms our beliefs, overlooking anything else that goes against it. For example, you might think that one of your team members doesn't have a sense of humour. Then in every meeting or interaction you have with them, you notice how they rarely smile or joke around. Affinity bias, also known as similarity bias, is next. This is our tendency to connect with others who share similar interests, experiences, and backgrounds and give them more positive feedback as a result. For example, you praise someone because they are a similar age and have similar life experiences to you. Finally, we have fundamental attribution error. This is the tendency for us to explain behaviour as a product of personality and ignore how our own actions or situational factors may be the real cause behind it. For example, you think a team member is highly strung, so when they become upset about a piece of feedback you've given them, it's because of this and not because you may have presented the feedback harshly. Once we understand how we might be affected by bias, we can then better vet ourselves for bias before and during feedback conversations. To do this, you need to test if the feedback is objective, is based on clear criteria, is an accurate representation, will be given evenly and fairly, and hasn't or can't be disproved. Often a biased view is not intentionally malicious. We just need to be self-aware and examine the judgments we've made before we give the feedback. And we need to remember why we give feedback in the first place: to help people grow, to be their most authentic, strongest selves, and ultimately do their best work.